5-star BDM. I'm going to share some knowledge you might not know about. According to Forbes and other reputable data analysts, the creator economy market size is estimated to be worth more than $100 billion and currently accounts for 50 million individuals worldwide, doubling in value since 2019. No doubt due in part to the economic shifts, the improvements in the technology, and the pandemic. A total of $5 billion was invested just last year. And according to my guest tonight, Dion Wilson, founder of RastR Technologies, is one of the 300 businesses uniquely placed to provide innovative SaaS solutions within this nascent sector. The team develops and manages software technology with an estimated market value of over $100 million. Now, based on the data collected by RastR Technologies, the global aggregate of their target audience's intellectual property has an estimated value of $10 billion. Now, these assets on overall retail between $100 to $1,000 each are created by individual media entertainment artists in hundreds annually. But unfortunately, their works largely go unseen, unused, and unmonetized. And this is the problem we are looking to solve tonight. We're going to talk to one of the industry leading authorities on the intermediate comic world sector, in which really are dominated by two big giant players that we know a lot about. You know, you've got Marvel out there, you got DC Comics, but there's a whole slew of artists and creators that need the kind of technology we're going to talk about tonight, which is called Heroledger. So I'd like to play a clip to give you a better understanding what Heroledger is all about, and then we're going to bring our guest Dion on and have a conversation. Thank you. Well, we are back. That was what you call a SaaS application on Heroledger. There's a lot of details there. This is a tool that independent comic creators can use. And I want to bring up Dion so we can have a better understanding of what we just witnessed, why this is important, and what we can gain out of it. We understand that it's a huge market and it's not well penetrated. And here's Dion now. I want him. He understands this technology a lot more than I do. I want him to first help us understand what's happening in the independent comic creator world. Dion, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dion Wilson. I am the founder and CEO of RastR Technologies. I want to thank you, Grant, for having me on the show today, and thank you, audience, for being here to listen to what we have to say and what our mission is all about.
Well, the mission is big. We put up some big numbers on the intro. We kind of talked about the market from a size perspective, but we haven't drilled into the real problem that independent comic creators are experiencing and what you're doing to help solve that problem. Let's shed some light on that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, two things. One, we can end the show now because you did such a great intro. I don't think I need to be here. But on a serious level, I do want to make one correction. We're not managing 100 million
Okay,
in software. It's 1 million.
got it.
Um,
Got it.
yes, 1 million, uh, which is a lot to manage. To go into detail about what we're looking at, we're looking at really a similar situation that we find in most traditional verticals. So for people that don't understand the vertical, just a real quick breakdown, you essentially have your producers, suppliers, and manufacturers at the top. And as you move down the vertical, almost like a ladder, you move towards distribution retailer. And then at the end of that ladder on the ground is your consumer, the people that buy and use whatever that widget is that was produced at the various levels of the ladder, at the top of the ladder. And in most traditional markets, it's very expensive to operate there for market entrants. Now, for big businesses and even medium-sized businesses, this is a great competitive advantage because they've already moved ahead. For small businesses, this is a game killer. We talk about small businesses, and really small businesses in the US by SBA definition, businesses, anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and businesses up to, I think, about 1 million plus in cap or in revenue, somewhere around that. But we have really a slew of micro businesses who might come to 100,000 a year in sales, or may come up to 1 million. And there are a tremendous number of these businesses, and it really doesn't matter what industry. So what we saw very early on, starting in 2015, doing our own research, were these similarities, and we saw that there are a tremendous number of smaller players who are trying to make their own offerings and be their own version of Marvel and DC, but trying to do so using the very tools that Marvel and DC, have benefited from. The traditional print model, the traditional distribution model, which in the U.S. Really for about 40 years has been monopolistic, to say the least. Where you have really one major player in the United States, even though there are a number of distributors, it really comes down to what you can afford. And it really comes down to also, it comes down to what the retailers in that distribution umbrella are willing to buy. If they're not interested in your product, then there's nothing to distribute. And when it comes to keeping the lights on, it's all about what we know works.
Yeah.
So in that traditional model, many of the players are going with larger brands because there's more output, more cost, more revenue, and smaller players can't manage that. there's this big argument in the community about, print versus digital. That's not the argument. It's how deep your pockets are. If you got deep pockets and you want to do print, and you can take that print to over 100,000 copies and 1,000,000 copies, and there's a demand for it, then do it. But we see that the evolution of digital since the late 90s has really empowered the mom and pop shops, the hobbyists, to really compete against big businesses, to grow their own market share independent of the traditional players. And so when we decided to create solutions, we did so that would really capitalize off of what is inherently strong in the independent creator market, specifically for comic creators, independent comic creators, and also the best ideas in software. What is available. As we move forward, software becomes, in one sense, maybe to the user base, it becomes less expensive, right? To us producers, it's expensive. But, the disintermediation that has been accomplished just within the last really 10 years, but over the last 20 years, really begins to even the playing field for small creators. And so we're here to really put these tools together in a way that makes sense. And, as me and my mom say, if it's not making dollars, it's not making sense. So, that's what it's about. You see,
Let me ask you this, Dion, because this is interesting. You get into some good. I'm going back in my own childhood about comics, right? I remember going to the store, and all my friends were talking about the latest Spider-Man that came out, the latest Superman that came out, or the Incredible Hulk, Batman. Yeah. And these were the images and storylines that we were accustomed to. I barely remember Black Panther. I remember a little bit that came out, but I think it was coming out in the 70s. It was the civil rights era also. So there's some, there's some other things around it, not just the story of itself. And I remember even my older uncles drawing. I remember even kids in school like, hey, I'm gonna draw some characters. I'm gonna make a superhero and make some sketches and kind of like I want to go into that world. And it seemed that you just never saw that really out in the marketplace. Maybe it's almost like movies. You never saw positive Black characters out, especially in the 70s and 80s. Very small, if anything, very small subset. But you've got a lot of people with creative instinct that are out there. So what I heard, what you just said right now, is that was because it was monopolized. It was a monopoly. And am I on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would like to say that, there was a lot of competition in the, late 30s, early 40s, even into the 1960s between comic publishers, newspaper companies that were the original owners and parents to a lot of these companies. You see, you mentioned DC Comics. It's a little bit different from Marvel, but similar. DC, which started out as National, which a lot of comic heads know. They had a parent that had was printing newspapers, and so print is easy to do when you already use those set of tools in your main business operations, and comics becomes this additional profit center that you can experiment with. And what the internet is for us today, which a lot of younger people don't realize, is that newspapers were in that time period actually really newspapers were big up until I'd say the millennium. Newspapers were big. They were dying at that point. But they had been big for many years. They had a reign of over 100 years, really. When you look at U.S. history, I mean, I have a collection that of newspapers go back to, matter of fact, the period of the Civil War. So it's 1863 to 1865.
What you're saying is that was the media. And I mean, my grandmother was saying that, I need the morning paper. The paper came, you saw some comics that were always in there, some, very short comics. And then I remember, like I said, the comic book was a small, you could fit it inside the newspaper, right? Is, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 page, but I think it came out every week, didn't it?
Well, it depends on the publication and the company. The comic book given to us by a gentleman, I can't think of his name right now. Don't shoot me, guys. But for those that know his name, I can't think of his name right now. But the comic book was really an innovation that came out of the Jewish community as a workaround for a lot of the oppression that they experienced in getting into the job market in America. And the gentleman that came up with the idea, I believe, according to what I read, he took the idea to Kodak, and they didn't, we don't see it, and so he persisted, in the assumption, and it became real. And so it originally started off as multiple strips that you would see in the newspapers as a collection, but not a collage in the sense of just here and there, but literal storytelling from one panel to the next, and cohesive storytelling from one page to the next. And that evolved. And especially when we got to the times of the superhero, which is not the first comic stories by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, comics and that genre go back to the Victorian age,
Yeah.
If we look at Western society. But to speak to what you were saying about a monopoly, so really quickly, I think there's a large portion of this that was not malicious in intent. I believe that the monopoly happened because businesses who could not hold their own essentially sunk, and larger companies that had the ability to buy them out and own those properties, which National and Timely did. They became the champions, and they bought out, EC Comics and Fawcett and some of the others, and a lot of the others. They own those properties, and we know those characters today, but we know them as the Marvel and DC, brands. So when we go into print, we're going in as, with the consumer mentality. A lot of the independents, these companies have had these type of resources as a way of doing business from the very beginning. And so I think monopolies were formed because when you really become the only one in the space and you're using a particular service, who else is it going to?
Yeah.
And I think over time, as people say, well, I want to do this, I want to do my own, like you mentioned, Black creators who saw these characters like Storm and Black Panther. They said they wanted to do their own. I talked to creators in Ecuador and other places of the world. They saw these characters, they wanted to do their own. And what they're doing, however, they're trying to imitate the most visible and the most seen, which is still visible, but they're trying to imitate the most visible elements of the business model and of the vertical, thinking that that's the business of comics. They're not understanding that there is a tremendous amount of manpower and resources and time that go into producing, a comic book and getting it into the commercial value chain that consumers, eat from. You see,
Yeah.
so there's some intent, of course, to maintain a monopoly, but
Well,
I
it's
think a
just
lot
like
of it,
Google. Google, bought up all the search engines that were out there before they're going. So it essentially formed
right,
a type of a monopoly. I understand what you're saying, and what
right,
I'm hearing you say, because we were going back to what RastR technology does, and we'll talk a little bit about that before we go to a commercial break. Because you see the problem, and now you see where you can like open the doors for some of these creators that have kind of like get stuck in the funnel, let's say, stuck in the
yeah,
finance
absolutely.
muck and that type of thing.
Absolutely. I think you put it well. We did our homework. We don't come to this market like a lot of people who say, "Oh, I got a great idea." There are a lot of great ideas that have died along the way. And we've been here since they've been dying, in fact, multi-million dollar companies. We did our research, and part of the reason why we could even come into this space is because I'm not new to comics. I created and owned Titanium Comics. I did that for 5 years. I had a six-figure budget. I had the kind of money that people would love to use to buy a house with. And so I had advantages in the market that a lot of these guys and girls don't have, but I still interacted with them. I still got to know them. I still treated them as, equal peers, but my reach was global. I was able to network with creators and other producers and service providers from around the world, which has really been in my professional, toolkit for a number of years. Uh, so Raster essentially decided that it was time to add more value to the space and not just be another kid in the proverbial community pool during the summer. When it's, the example I like to use is if it's the summer and it's really, really hot, back in the day, you'd take your kids to the community pool. And it'd be so many kids in the pool. If you fill it to capacity, if you're a parent, you got to keep your eyes on where your kid is because there's just so many kids. And at some point, they all look alike, you know, uh, it's, in some ways.
No, you get hard to
Um,
see. Yeah, get lost.
yeah. And so the idea is we wanted to not just be another kid in the pool. We felt it would be better to be the lifeguard. We
Yeah.
felt it would be better to absolutely. We felt it would be better to really um, help these creators with advantages that they need, and that the industry really should be a lot more not just sensitive to, but engaging. They're losing market share not just because they're not doing what they should be traditionally with their own IP, but they're losing market share because they're losing touch with other creators as well as consumers. And that's disappointing, but that gives us opportunity. And so, Raster is here to meet some challenges that, these one trick pony platforms that come up, God bless them, but they won't last because they're not in touch with this industry. They've never worked in this industry. They don't understand the roots. They don't understand the core product. And I'd love to talk more about that comic book because, see, we've gotten away from that, the comic conventions and the comic this, the comic that. It's not even about comics anymore. But we decided to take it back to its roots. And we do that, however, with digital technologies that are the forerunners for transparency and true democratization, equilibrium. And so that's where we come from. And I have a brilliant team.
Well, we're going to talk about your team. We're going to talk about. We're going to get. Let's take the cover off the Heroledger. Talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit. Talk about why this is so important. How creators can really get level that playing field because we talked about how they were getting stuck, but
yeah,
now you're like, wow, because you're utilizing newer technologies that some of them are blockchain. I think it's blockchain based. You're getting that world. And We're going to talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about Web3. We're going to talk about this because we want opportunities for people, especially people that love comics. People were talking about Lion Man. People were talking about, Black Panther. They're
Yes.
talking about, oh, it's
Very
like,
well.
yeah, do I
Yes.
get a chance to really make my comic come alive
Yes.
and true? Like, wow, without having to have, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're going to go to break. And then when we come back, we're going to delve deep. How about that?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you.
I started Gateway Healthcare Solutions to help medical facilities to improve their financial performance. GHS has a healthcare denial prevention strategist practice designed to improve healthcare financial services, offering denial management and business development with a strategic approach of mechanisms for hospitals, clinics, and providers on how to maximize payer contractual agreements.
We are a growing firm with a demonstrated record of success with our client projects by leveraging our wide-ranging skills and expertise to assist with delivering high-quality services such as denial management, revenue cycle management, strategy consulting, management training, medical software, and contract management. Our approach offers an analysis of your current state coupled with a proven solution and execute with a process improvement strategy and implementation methodology for our clients.
GSS develops an understanding of its customers' problems by identifying, assessing, and tailoring the services to suit the business needs. Selecting the right healthcare solutions advisor can bring you the management services you need and peace of mind you deserve.
Call us today for a free consultation. We are back, and I want to thank my audience for tuning in tonight. We're taking you on a journey. I think everyone out there can remember a favorite comic book, a favorite phrase from a comic book, or some, you look at the blockbuster movies. Look how much money that Marvel has put out and all the different entertainment that has come out, just from tuning in to the comic book and the superhero persona. And as we make this journey now into better technology, a bigger platform that leverages a playing field that allows more of us to be able to play. We all want to go to the pool, Dion. We want to get in there and get wet. How about that? So tell us a little bit more about your technology, your team, and the service providers.
Absolutely. First thing I want to state about Heroledger. Heroledger is not a one-stop shop. It's not the solution for all creator problems, creator speed bumps. Heroledger was designed as we call it an emissary. It is the first of a number of applications that we're creating where our users will be able to participate in an ecosystem of technologies that meet multiple needs, but no one technology can do it all. We'd be in a different world. Heroledger was designed to be a B2B marketplace where you can, as a producer of games, animation, film, music videos, music albums, the graphic design on them, and of course, the mainstay, comic books, that you can go to this store and find art, written scripts, graphic design work, audio files, video files to help you improve your product, to help you get through some of the speed bumps of looking for an artist to do a particular character. If there are characters and they're presented in categories such as genre, styles, that's going to make it easier if you're a writer trying to convey an idea to your editor, or to put it in your comic or whatever you're producing. So this is one way of reducing the time to market, and in another way of also being able to see transparency in your cost as a producer, knowing ahead of time what your spend is. And that's going to help you because there are different categories of spend that everybody has. And there's a seller there to match that. One of the things that this platform does that I'm excited about, it really goes hard into exploring licensing. Something that, God bless the attorneys, but something that there's had a lot of opacity around it, especially in media entertainment of all types, are legal contracts. Lawyers of course, because their services are not inventoriable. Sorry, I'm telling your business, your services are not inventoriable. So what you do is you create opacity. You make things seem complex so you can spend more time, and your clients will have to spend more money with you. You build in almost like technology. You build in an aspect where it will fail so that your client will come back to you. We want to cut through that nonsense and work with attorneys who really want their customers, their clients, to have the best representation of the law, and in clear, cut, and defined ways that help to protect that client and that client's intellectual property. So we're talking about today not having a 45-page, law contract on licensing. We're talking about some very simple, easy to use digital tools between peers where they can license. And what's the point of licensing? The point is we're taking the what works from the value chain. There's producing a product, but then there is the formula for how that product actually not only is in the market, but works in the market to satisfy the consumer demand as well as revenues. And, traditional businesses, they own that. They own that model. And so the best we can do is try to glean from it, learn from it, work with some of the professionals who will lean in and teach us some things and apply those things to, some software automation.
Let me ask you
So,
this, John.
yeah,
If you don't mind, I want to ask you this
okay.
because we talked earlier, you made a clear distinction. First of all, yes, you're running this on a blockchain. You have a blockchain that you're running this software on.
Yes.
It is not a non-fungible token. It's not an NFT.
Yeah.
There's a distinction between what you're doing and what we understand as NFT. I want you to just unpack that a little bit for us.
All right. Let's unpack that. I think, you just, you just opened up, the can of worms, because anybody that knows me, my team and people that have seen me talk, they know I'm not a fan of art NFTs. I love non-fungible token technology, i.e., for those that know, ER721 and others. But we're not seeing definitive use that provide value to every business stakeholder when we see a lot of these art NFTs. Our system is scoped to deal with files that represent the art, okay, that represent whatever form the art is. Illustration, written work is art as well. So when we say art, we encompass it all. Because we are focused on producers. A lot of the NFTs that you see in the market, non-fungible tokens, what people would term, layman's terms, the one-offs, the limited edition stuff, those are for collectors. And we've got an amazing product for comic collectors that's on its way. Amazing product, a product that we spent time literally talking to SEC chairman about, and lawyers, attorneys, I should say, some lawyers, but mainly attorneys and other business professionals. We're going to change the game there too, but not to digress too much. The NFT is something that doesn't, it doesn't speak, it can, but the way that it's been propagated very quickly, it doesn't speak to the most value across all stakeholders. It doesn't speak to legal issues of ownership. Okay. Companies like DC have had to take legal action against their own artists for taking characters that DC owns and trying to add them to NFTs, you see. And we haven't seen the end of it. That market has crashed big time just within the last quarter, and just from December to Q1 of this year. I'm constantly posting the warnings about how people are in that space. So Heroledger really focuses on the file, because these aren't one-offs. These creations need to be used in t-shirts, coffee mugs. They need to go in comics. They need to go in video games. They need to go everywhere. And so when we focus on the value proposition and not get rich quick, we begin to penetrate other market categories that these creators really need to be in. They don't necessarily need to create more stuff. They have inventory and inventory upon inventory of creations that are the three uns: unseen, unmonetized, and unused. They're just sitting on their hard drive. They're just sitting in their illustration books and portfolios. And so we say that's a lot of value that needs to come to a marketplace that, like you said earlier, the Marvel movies, every commercial you can think of, from insurance to banking to things that have nothing to do with comic books, is showing some kind of action superhero scene. And so there's a demand for it.
I want to jump in right quick, because what you just said there, I want people to understand what you just said.
Yeah.
And I know this, because I know people like this. Maybe they were into art at one time. Maybe they were into, video creation at one time. Maybe they were into making a game at one time, and it just kind of stayed on the shelf. It didn't get any traction. They couldn't really push it out into the market. So it's just there. And it's,
Right.
It's just collecting dust. And now you're giving them an opportunity to dust it off.
Yeah.
It may be very, very valuable to someone else.
Well, it's going to be, it's a coin with two sides. It's going to be very valuable to someone else, and that value in turn plays back to the creator. Mm-hmm. When you mentioned Spider-Man, the Hulk, and all these characters didn't have the financial values when they were created in the 1960s that they have today. These are multi-billion-dollar franchise brands. One company alone could exhaust their revenue just acquiring all of the rights to Spider-Man, not just the rights, I should say, just buying Spider-Man. It'll never happen, but one company would run out of money, and they better be a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
I guess that's why Disney did buy Spider-Man. But essentially, when the creator who needs more financial value does more than make money off of his comics, but now is in a license deal where he or she is getting royalties for work that someone else is doing with their character. They don't have to do any more work, no more output. Somebody's putting that character in a game, on a t-shirt, somewhere else. It's exposing them to another market that they haven't been in with their comics, and it's making them more money, and it's adding actual financial value to that brand, to that character, because that character is hitting on those financial touch points that the horizontal, that we didn't talk about, the horizontal in business needs to see to give you more products and services when it comes to money and tools. And so we thought of that, and that's why we structured licensing. And I want to say this one thing real quick too.
Yeah.
We didn't just think of these things. When I had Titanium, we participated in this. Before there was an NFT, we had one of our comic book series called The Arcane. It was a supernatural Western. We worked with a group called The Scribe, Bruce Pond and Trent McConaughey, who are really pioneers, I think, in blockchain 2.0, in terms of data and in terms of seeing how we can take assets and really secure them and transfer them and really get values off of. They moved on to projects such as Big Chain DB, and they're part of, they made an Ocean protocol in the blockchain space. But we worked with them on a couple of projects. We used BitPay. Back in the day, we were the first to do it. Then Dynamite came along, and a company out of France claims to be the first. They were the first to create a blockchain comic book, but they were a book publisher. They didn't have anything to do with the comic business. We were the first in the comic book business to allow for blockchain payments. So we've been there. We're not
Well,
just
I tell you,
sitting
Dion, you now I'm learning you're a pioneer, and that you see the business from a whole different lens, and you see the opportunity to be able to help and to be a problem solver. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to really hone in on where you're going into your future. What's next for you? How about that?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right.
5-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaugh, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-Star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
All right, we are back, and I want to know, help me understand the future of RastR technology. Tell me where you want to be and how you're going to be a player in this space with this technology.
So by the numbers, and you gave really the total addressable market, which is 100 billion, and that's across all creator economies at about 50 million players internationally, maybe more, but about 50 million people. We see that the serviceable opportunity for us is in the $700 million range. And we believe, because of the tools, the team, and the time, that we can meet that goal in a 10-year period. And that's not 10 years of our life, because we've been around, I've been on this 8 years, the team's been here, I think about 6, 7, depending on who's on the team. They'll know their time better than I do. But when we're commercially set, when we're there, and to say when we're there, our guys and our software developers right now are moving our technologies to the final points. We're finishing our last sprints and getting them ready through our production server so that individuals and their teams can go and use the system. Tell us what works, tell us what doesn't work. And, our developers are there to continue to keep iterating. So, you've got really a serviceable, addressable market of about in comics specifically, if we extrapolate from that total of 100 billion, we've got about 10 billion, about 1/10 of that is comics. And someone might say, well, how can you say that? Well, first of all, the collectible market for comics alone pre-COVID was 5 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that market is smaller than the comic retail market. But we see so many hybrid combinations of comic books to other media entertainment, as well as education and other industry sectors, that it can really expand past 10. But we'd rather keep it within that 10%, because I think that we extrapolate from there to the obtainable market of 700 million. That's a nice chunk for us to work towards. And there's a combination of objectives and models that we're putting together that we believe will meet, and we actually, to brag a little bit, we believe will exceed that. But on the safe side, we work to meet that.
Well, what I'm hearing is you're able to execute. You've done the strategy. You've looked at the business. You look at the timing. Timing is everything. You're seeing where you can go. You have a bullseye, and you see the target, and you're going to hit it. And I see the confidence that I'm hearing from you.
Well, I thank you for that. I'm confident because I have an amazing team. There are no, we all have a story. We all have a story, but it's whose shoulders we ride on. And I have some phenomenal players in this space. We've had people that have come and gone that have provided phenomenal support to what we're doing, just giving us that extra step, that extra leg up. But the team that I have been here the longest. They've been riding this horse, and they support it. And each of them have a background, not necessarily in comics, because one of the things, one of the things that I did, I wanted to build a team outside of comics.
Okay.
Because what I found early was that sometimes when you're kind of got your head down and you're deep in whatever the building and the environment is, you can't see the bigger picture. And a lot of people, a lot of so-called professionals in the comic book industry tend to pivot to one company or address one item or the other. I needed people to see the future. When you ask us about the future, we have a 30-year plan.
Nice.
And that 30-year plan is a continuation of the use of evolving technologies into this space. It's evolving where our plan is to evolve the creators where you can't distinguish, and this is kind of another contrast, you can't distinguish one Marvel from the other because they're all doing very well, or at least the largest possible percentage, which is a much larger percentage than today. Comic creators today haven't looked at the independent creators of the late 1930s and early 40s who lasted, the economists that we had help us crunch the numbers. We did about, we did 1938 to I think 2007 or something like that. And we took about 100 comic book companies from that time. Believe it or not, there were a lot. And we only chose the ones that had a life of about 5 years. Why 5 years? Because if you look at what the federal government and most statistics say, well, traditionally it used to be a small business only lasts 5 years. It's 3 now.
Yeah.
And there are percentages within that of who makes the grade each year. And so we said, well, 5 years. And for those groups, we found a couple of things. Number one, we found that when comparing it to recessionary periods like what the United States and Western countries and maybe even the world is entering into right now, comic creators come to the market, I believe it's 2.2 times greater than when things are great. You know, they try their hand, they take, it's a lot of risk, but they come to the market at the worst times. But here's what history has shown. History has shown that even the companies that have only lasted for 5 years in those spaces have comic books today, not their whole collection, but at least one comic book today that's worth anywhere between 5 figures to 6 figures in the collectibles market. Okay.
Well,
So
I tell you, Dion, I don't want to stop your flow. This has been
yeah,
wonderful. This is great. And you got a lot of more information. And I want the audience to be able to get in contact with you,
yeah.
especially if they've got creation or they know people that have creation and they're looking for opportunity. What is the best way to get in contact with you?
Best way to contact is to go info@rastr.io. And we don't spell raster with the E. It's just RASTR. You know, the name's been pronounced in crazy ways, but it literally means image. This, you know, raster was the old picture tube from the old TV sets. They were referred to them as
Oh,
raster.
I
The image
remember.
was
Yes, I
right.
do. Wow.
So
I'm
that's
dating
where our
myself.
name
I don't
comes
remember. I
from.
don't remember. No.
Yeah, don't tell on yourself. I only read about it, so that's my disclaimer. I can't say I was there.
Well, Dion, this has
But
been wonderful. We're going to conclude for tonight. I want to
sure.
encourage the audience to continue to tune in to all the episodes on Follow the Brand. And they can follow me as well on my website at www.5starbdm. And that is B for brand, D for development, Infomasters.com. And we will see you again, Dion. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Yeah.
I know Dion was.
I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I am Black business. I am Black business. Are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpo.com. blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090. I am Black Business.
The Black Business Expo's mission is to raise funds for high school seniors going to college or K through 12 entrepreneurs. This expo is a fundraiser for students. Please, you may go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com to donate to the scholarship fund or use the Cash App at $BDXUSA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. Students can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts. Please donate to the Black Business Expo USA Scholarship Fund. Hey everyone, it's Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the award-winning Follow the Brand podcast and TV series, where I help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. My genius is personal brand development through intelligent communication and helping you achieve your business and career goals. I am a requested speaker on digital technology and brand development issues. I want to work with you to increase the value of your current opportunities while attracting new ones. Every one of you is unique, and we all share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. As a super connector, I work with you as an executive coach to guide you along the complicated business and career development road, providing the enhancement tools and information you need to succeed. Together, I will help you succeed in today's challenging business climate. I will evaluate and measure your progress. Best of all, I am right alongside you every step of the way. Build the brand called you. Genius is coming.